Hey Oliver, thanks for joining me today. Seeing as we're running this as a normal VC meeting, I usually start by giving a quick intro to pro-founders to set the context, and then we can pass the baton over to you to actually focus on all the interesting stuff that Innerworks is doing. So I'm Georgie, I'm an associate at Pro-Founders Capital. We're a pan-European seed stage VC fund, and we invest in software in B2B and also B2C. We think that our value add is that a lot of our LP base have been in your shoes and have built pretty big businesses from ideation up to exit. That's the team from Booking.com, Last Minute, Michael Birch, who founded Bebo, and we draw down on their expertise as and when it makes sense. Ticket sizes are between 500k and 2.5 million, but we don't have an ego. We're happy to follow or lead as what makes sense. So I think to kick this off, it would be super interesting to hear a little bit about your background and the ideation story for how you started Innerworks.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much for the intro. So I'm Ollie. I'm the co-founder of Innerworks, and we're a London-based cybersecurity company. We're focused on proof of humanity and identity. So what that means is checking whether a user is a human being or a bot, and then secondly, whether it's the true and correct account holder that's ever accessing a service or executing a transaction. And the genesis of the company was as a behavioral sciences firm. So we set out with the question of what's the most accurate behavioral profile we can create about a human being. And we were interested in predictions across multiple domains, so everything you can imagine, to workplace behavior, to health, to consumer behavior. And long story short, we started exploring this field of psychoinformatics, which is behavioral prediction off the back of the way that you use your device and the internet. And we came to the conclusion what we'd really built were these instant behavioral biometric profiles. So, and really the core of this thesis is every single authentic user on the internet will own a series of unique hardware devices and then operate them in a unique way. Yeah. And we think that thesis is under-leveraged within authentication and identity.
Okay, fantastic. And so diving into the product a bit more, and I'm going to have to plead ignorance in this space as well. So please don't feel bad if you're sort of teaching to grandma to suck eggs. But so you are approaching the space where you need to verify that users are humans. So when you say like making transactions or things like that, or does it go wider than that? And you're also just looking at general traffic to websites and things like that as well?
So the way that the product works is it's a simple SDK, so 2 lines of code that can be installed invisibly behind any page of a website or a native mobile app. It could be at sign up, sign in. It could be at a higher risk moment, like a payments page, for example. The technology in and of itself is use case agnostic, industry agnostic. Yeah. What we do is collect behavioral data, so things like how you physically touch and hold your device, how you type, how you move the mouse, how you navigate the UI. And we process that data through our 2 AI models. So one of them looking to see if you're human or not, and one to look at the time series data, if we have it about you, to see if we think you're the correct account holder. And so that value prop can scale horizontally. As a company and as a team, we're focused on the payments space. So we want to make sure that fintechs, large card issuers, banks, crypto platforms, that it's only ever a human being and the correct account holder that's ever sending this cash around and accessing it. But we're also spinning off licensing deals in all different directions for other use cases that people can work with. So things like digital advertising fraud is our second biggest TAM. Bots on gaming platforms, social media. There's lots of different directions. But as a team, we want to focus on protecting cash.
Yeah, fantastic. So it sounds like you come into the workflow, which is where someone's trying to actually access that sensitive data. And it sounds like is the output or the result of finding a bot that you sort of shut that account and shut off those bots from being able to get into that sensitive data?
So we're a risk analytics provider. And that massively reduces the frictions for us entering business and selling, right? So we we're completely invisible to an end user, and that's important, right? Because authentication is super annoying for people. Like, they don't want to click on photos of traffic lights. They don't want to listen. They don't want to respond to 2FA codes, whatever it might be. It's pointless friction. That's a distraction from why they're there. But for businesses, we don't block users. We just empower them with risk analytics. So there are lots of different derivative metrics, but the key ones are, these are the users that we think are bots, and these are the accounts that have been compromised. So multiple different behavioral profiles are accessing them, which means they've been hacked or intentionally shared.
Okay, fantastic. And I saw that asset sort of comes out as a client report that they receive with all these metrics, right?
That's an example kind of output that we made for one of our enterprise customers, which is one of the largest crypto platforms in the world. And crypto is an amazing space for us because there's no shortage of fraud. But as a product, like, we can either deliver a direct data pipe, so businesses can visualize the data in any way they like, or we spin up dashboards. That report was more just a summary of the data that had been supplied to a client, and that was our breakthrough use case, where we showed that the leading cybersecurity provider, over 60% of the users that they had approved were not even human, and there were tons of other malicious activity going on with those users. So that was our kind of breakthrough POC.
Okay, fantastic. No, I think that's really helped clarify the product. You started to dive into some of the traction you're seeing with the product, where you are on your journey. You mentioned you've had a breakthrough POC. Maybe you can speak a little bit more about launching the product and traction you've seen.
Yeah, sure. So we rapidly hit over 50K in ARR without any marketing spend. Really just off of the back of the product traction that happened from that breakthrough POC. So we've demonstrated, that we outcompete every cybersecurity provider that we've been benchmarked against. So if you compare us to Cloudflare, Datadome, Fingerprint.js, Google's reCAPTCHA, we simply find more bots, and the product is invisible, right? So it's not annoying, and in most cases it's cheaper. So with those key value props, the main opportunity and risk for us right now is speed to market. We have a multi-million-dollar sales pipeline now. One customer alone, we think, will be generating over 2.5 million ARR and revenue generating imminently, as in this quarter. And so the main breakthroughs for the company have been from a tech perspective, and also getting on really prominent stakeholders within identity and fintech. Now is the moment for the company to capitalize on this enormous and time-sensitive opportunity that's related to Gen AI fraud. Basically, all of these incumbent legacy tools are breaking because the market's never seen before that bots can simulate humans with near 100% accuracy in multiple domains, right? Like, just 4 months ago, we had users that behave like bots and users that behave like humans, and now they all look the same because of Gen AI tools. And that's going to be happening in multiple domains, audio, video, bots looking, sounding, behaving like humans. And that's the trend that we're in front of.
Yeah, no, and then that's a really strong use case for, why now? Why is this, why are we building this company now? And just so that people understand timelines, when was that first POC? So when have you been selling from?
So that POC was 5 months ago now, and at that point the company wasn't revenue generating. It was our first sort of enterprise pilot. We then capitalized on that and secured our first paying enterprise customer. And all of the learning that comes with that in terms of navigating the legals and the compliance and the procurement process of a large enterprise that has tens of millions of users. We're not rolled out at that scale at this moment in time, but that's the we've gone through that full cycle. So in that short period of time, in this 5-month period, we've exploited multiple different use cases, signed up lots of different customers, and probably the key outcome has been the transition to usage-based subscription pricing. So we now mirror the pricing structure of our competitors, and we're able to hit 80% plus gross margins whilst also being cheaper. So as things stand, our value prop is really quite clear, where we believe we're more accurate. We're able to demonstrate that we're more accurate. The product is invisible, and it's cost effective and scalable.
Yeah, and appreciating that you're probably still investigating pricing at the moment. Where are you pitching pricing for that subscription?
So for mid-market companies, so this is like up to sort of 60K ACV. We have 3 tiers of pricing that range from $750 a month to $4,500 a month, and that's starting at 500,000 requests that can run through our API, up to 10 million. So it's a significant number of requests, so we can handle really substantial traffic and still meet the market benchmarks on pricing. Anything above that, we customize the pricing for really large enterprises, of which we have many in the pipeline. The main issue for us is genuinely getting the word out to our target audience and putting some infrastructure around converting that business. So that's the reason that we ended up raising, is we had some really strategic angels come in. And we were literally about to close our round about 2 weeks ago, and then a London-based VC with over $1 billion under management came in with a term sheet. So we're now really at the final stages of closing out, but we're really happy with the partners that we have to help us really commercialize off the back of what we've done so far.
Fantastic. So maybe we can dive into that round a little bit more, because it sounds like you're nearing the end of that round. So
Sure.
Perhaps this pitch is better aimed at looking at future rounds. So how much are you sort of raising in this current round? You've said what you're going to deploy it for, and then looking towards the future, how are you seeing timelines evolve?
Yeah, so I mean, we set out to raise 2 million at a 23 million pre-money. And that was initially driven by our early investors wanting more exposure, plus some strategic angels that we met. It's now turning into a structured venture round as a formal seed. We have over 4 million of interest in a 2 mil round. So it's we have a really amazing opportunity to find the right people to help us build, and that's the priority right now, is basically investors who can introduce us to customers and imminently, plus obviously help us strategize about the next raise. And our thesis for what will be important at Series A will be really high trust stakeholders, probably a combination of CVCs joining the round as well. So we would look at large banking VCs, card issuing VCs, their venture capital arm of those large corporates, where there are most exciting and high scale use cases. It's really frontier technology, and having the sort of counterbalancing effect of very mainstream backing is very important to us. So that's how we see things developing, and we expect to be raising Series A in Q2 next year.
Okay, awesome, fantastic. And you touched on that a lot of this round is to sort of hone go-to-market and be able to find customers. At the moment, it sounds like you don't have a member of the team pushing forward that sales. Has it been founder-led sales now, and how are you looking towards growing your team, and where's the team at currently?
Yeah, so there's around 10 of us in the company, and only 2 that do formally have a commercial role, right? Like all of us as co-founders are selling. So it's absolutely been founder-led sales, and we made our first commercial hire, who's been brilliant at putting a process around us. But now's an opportunity where we need really experienced B2B enterprise sales experience on the team. That combined with we would think of as quite a techie hire related sort of marketing data analytics, where we want to have really high scale AI driven sales funnels, lots of really high scale A/B testing of the audience and the messaging. So broadly speaking, those are the 2 categories of hire that'll be very important over the next 2-3 months.
Yeah, great. And what is the team makeup currently, and sort of what's yourself, or why you are the team to build this company at this sort of opportune time?
Yeah, so I mean the absolute majority of the company have an ML background. So both my co-founders have a machine learning background. One of them is my CTO. and the other is our chief product engineer. And the division between them is one of them is solely focused on actually building the fraud detection models, and the other is focused on managing the whole development process that isn't to do with the algos, and also making sure that all of the R&D is matching a commercial milestone. But yeah, primarily the big market opportunity has been a product that has evolving defense techniques. So essentially, if you come up with an idea of how to detect a bot, by the time you deploy it into the market, that idea will have expired, right?
Yeah.
Like it's evolving in real time. So adaptive learning frameworks are the key to winning what is cat and mouse / arms race. So that's why we've been so tech heavy, but we've now gotten to a point where it's the biggest risk is not being aggressive enough in marketing, and also there's a data acquisition benefit now. Like the more data we collect, the better these models will be. We've got not only our own sales pipeline of customers, but we do some really frontier techniques for training our models, including decentralized training, which is essentially crowdsourcing ideas for defense techniques and new bot attack frameworks. So yeah, that's what's ahead for us. But it's a big transition moment to being a more much more of an emphasis on the commercial infrastructure for the company.
Yeah, awesome. And it's interesting that you're saying the market is very fast moving around you. So how do you see the competitive landscape? Are there sort of players that are slightly ahead in the journey who aren't maybe being as adaptive in their techniques, or how do you see the market that you're playing in?
So what at a macro level, there is absolutely room for many new players right now, because the legacy tools are breaking and at unbelievable scale. So all of the major providers, very soon they'll no longer be meaningful indicators of the health of the user base.
Yeah.
We have the number one provider. There's a 96% pass rate with bots, which is higher than humans. So bots are actually better than humans at passing a proof of humanity test. So lots of new players are gonna emerge. There are definitely people who are ahead of us in terms of they've just been in the market longer. However, we have very strong conviction that people who are in the game at the moment don't have longevity, because they're not tapping in to the how essential the evolving element of the product is. They may use ML, but not necessarily in as frontier a technique as we believe needs to be deployed to keep up. Yeah, there's when we look at other behavioral biometrics companies, for example, we used to describe ourselves that way, and like I mentioned, we spend most of our time now not looking at even just user behavior, but just whether the genesis of data is really from a true hardware device that actually exists, or whether it's from an emulator, and whether there's some hidden algo behind what at face value looks human. And we find that most of the people, most of the competitors in the space are still dealing with data at face value, which is not resistant to Gen AI fraud.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously, you've mentioned there are incumbents in this market, and this is presumably a problem that affects quite a lot of corporates, enterprises. You've mentioned your ICP, but all over that could happen all over the world. So, which geographic markets are you going to go after first? Obviously, you're based in London, but what's the international plan?
Well, if we look across our customer base now, it's already in international. So most of our customers are either in the US or Asia. And these are I would not say that the marketing efforts need to be focused on so much a particular geography, just to the extent that so many of the platforms that we meet now, they're either their companies are either distributed, or they have multiple HQs that are open to procurement of products like these. That said, I still think that mainly the decision makers are concentrated in the US, and that's where naturally like a lot of our marketing efforts will go, and that's where we're going to see the highest scale adoption of tools like us in the short and medium term. We're very bullish on Asia and the Middle East being the long-term probably leader in this field in terms of like market adoption of frontier technology. But yeah, in terms of where we'll be deploying resources, it's very use case centric at the moment. You know, if wherever you may be based, if you're issuing e-wallets, whether it's crypto or fiat or credit or debit cards or bank accounts, you know, whether it's a small challenger bank or a large bulge bracket bank, we have a very strong value prop. So that's probably the most important factor.
Yeah, great. No, thank you. I feel like we've covered a range of topics and sort of done a 20 minutes, but with the time we have remaining, is there anything else that you think would be helpful for sort of the focal listeners to hear?
I think the last point I'd make is the reason that we're seeing a convergence between the bot detection and identity verification market is because we're seeing technology for the first time that is imitating humans very successfully. So when people are thinking about bots right now, they're imagining Twitter bots or, you know, the type of thing that might spam, you know, your email or social media account and so on. It's not the case of where this is going. This is heading towards bots that will, you know, look, sound, and behave like you and the people that you know. That's, you know, the face of generative AI is really quite scary. So I'd encourage everyone to think about how rapidly fraud is changing and how that will impact the types of tools that we're going to come onto the market. You know, it's not going to be just us. There's going to be so many different things, obviously, that emerge. But it's a major inflection point. And we're seeing, you know, we're seeing changes on a daily basis. We're seeing, you know, significant inflection moments every 2-3 months. So just as a high level background, just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, makes perfect sense. Okay, well, great. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that everyone watching this found this helpful as well as I found it really interesting too.
No, thanks so much.